Um, all right, so welcome everyone to the podcast. This is yet another one from the Calcio blog. Got a good guest with me today, Luke from Forza Calcio. He is a Napoli fan, but we won't hold that against him too much. Um, so welcome, Luke. Pleased to have you here.
Yeah, pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me.
No worries. I think the first thing we like to do with everyone that we talk to is learn a little bit more about your Calcio journey, because I'm discovering more and more English or Brits that follow Italian football, whereas previously I thought none existed. So is it another James Richardson responsible for you as well?
So I think not. I've watched it, but James Richardson and Gazetta was probably a bit before
Before your
my
time,
time.
don't do that to me. Come on.
But yeah, I've sat and watched there's loads of reruns of it on YouTube and all
Yeah.
that. So I often sit down and watch it all. And obviously, you can't be an Italian football fan without knowing about the whole James Richardson side. To me,
And the theme tune as well, yeah.
yeah, I've been searching for that on Spotify to add to a playlist, but it's not on Spotify, so I can't listen to it in the car or something. For me, no, I probably started following Italian football, a long time ago. I used to be into sort of just European football as a whole. I mean, when I was younger, I wanted to go into journalism. I didn't actually end up going into journalism, but back then, I used to love just European football, so I used to just sit and watch like Spanish and Italian as the two main ones, a bit of German.
No French,
Predominantly, no French. I didn't really watch. I don't know why. I just didn't watch the French.
It's just not as good, is it? Like,
No. So yeah, and then I've been a Newcastle United fan for my entire life. Will always be a Newcastle United fan. My family, like my dad, granddad, did it all the way up the sort of family tree on Newcastle fans. So that's never going to leave. But I've never been banging to the Premier League. Aside from that, it's always just been Newcastle and then European football. Up until about 5 years ago, sort of started not watching any other leagues apart from Italian, really, and then it just became really hyper focused on Italian and the Italian leagues, and now it's
what was the
became
reason for that, do you think? Was that just just it gradually took over as something more enjoyable?
yeah, and I think I just became more into the culture of Italy and the cities around and sort of that side of things rather than any other. I used to watch Spanish football at the time back in the day when I wanted to be a journalist, because at the time where I was sort of becoming into my being able to sort of understand football a bit more and sort of getting into that wanting to be a journalist journey. It was when Guardiola was at Barcelona, so it was that was Spanish football in its pomp, really.
Yeah.
And it was like
Before we were in football, yeah.
Yeah, that was a tactical sort of that was the stories and that was where it was. And then I think as it just sort of felt out, I just got less interested in Spanish football when that side of things changed, and it just became more into sort of Italian. But yeah, I'd say Italian football's sort of been my focus for many years, to be quite honest with you, and being one of the top leagues that I've watched for a long time.
So what made you zero in then on Napoli at that point?
There's a few things really. Always had that sort of interest in Napoli, given the likes of like back in the day it was like Cavani and the likes of that. But Diego Maradona is my favourite ever player, based on
For an Englishman to say that as well.
Yeah, I love Diego Maradona, favourite ever player. I'm not too fussed on the national side of England personally. That's just me. That's just my preference. I enjoy the tournament. I don't really care too much anymore. I used to care when I was a kid, but now I'm not as bothered. So that whole connection between Maradona and England, I'm not fussed. Maradona's been my favourite player for a long time. Just his story, and obviously him as a player and his story.
Yeah. He's a top player, yeah.
I kind of like enjoy most of the story culture side of football rather than like how much XG a player has or shit like that, really.
Yeah. XG might be the worst statistic ever.
Yeah, it's just like I'm not bothered. Like if he's got a bit of character, a bit of a story, a bit of artistry, then my interest's peaked, really. And then always had the liking to Napoli and then the Maradona connection. And then, yeah, as I'm more sort of focused on Italian football and given the way the Premier League's going in terms of the money and Newcastle's ownership and stuff like that, you just sort of disassociate with that side of things and you look for something else, I guess. Napoli just came about, and I think there's always been a link between being from the northeast of England and then being from the south and that whole north versus south divide and the political side of things. And given the history of the northeast of England and the British government and all that. I won't go into it now because we're talking about Italian football, not politics.
We've
But
only got about half an hour.
yeah, let's not bring up Thatcher and all that. No, we don't need to do that. But yeah, that's like, there's multiple things there. But yeah, I think there was that connection as well, added on to the fact that where I'm from in England and that sort of how that works in England and the North versus South divide and how it is in Italy. I think there's a connection there as well.
And so how many times have you been over to Napoli then so far?
So I've not been to watch a game really, given it's just like cost and work and all that. I've been to the city itself, but at a time when the game wasn't on. I managed to watch a Champions League game in a pizzeria, Napoli versus Real Madrid, but I couldn't get tickets. So
Yeah.
that was the best I could get really.
That's it.
For Naples. I have been to elsewhere. I've been to sort of like Verona, Milan, Como, but never Napoli yet. I think up until recently, flights have always been a bit too pricey for the time I wanted to go.
Yeah, so talk to me about coming from the north of England then, because, living in Kent, I've got Stansted, I've got Gatwick, I've got Heathrow, I've got City Airport. You're a bit more limited, really, I suppose, aren't you, from the north, yeah.
So Manchester's not too bad. So I live in Manchester now. So moved from the northeast down here. Newcastle Airport, tiny, one terminal. It's not bad for you, like say your mainland Spain, your Spanish islands and all that, and some other long haul flights as well. But yeah, it's not the biggest airport, so the choice isn't massive, and that obviously means the price isn't great. Manchester is definitely a lot better. I mean, the first time I went to Milan, I went for like 15. So like, Manchester's much better. You've got your 3 terminals. So the flights are better, but it's just like, I think there was a couple years where the Amalfi Coast had its boom. It probably still does, but like there's a time when the Amalfi Coast was just like Amalfi. So then flights to Naples, given that the Amalfi Airport was shut, just went, obviously skyrocketed. So it's always been a struggle and with time and work, and currently undergoing a renovation project, which I didn't want, but we've sort of had to take. It's all a bit of a mixture. I've not been able to get a game yet, but I'm going to City Napoli next week. I've now got a Fidelity card, so
Okay, you managed to find a way in, yeah.
I can now buy tickets to Napoli games for the next 3 years at least, so there's an excuse to definitely book some flights.
That's it, yeah. You've only got 3 years. The clock's ticking, isn't it?
Yeah.
The missus will accept that, will she?
Just get a trip to Sorrento or Amalfi Coast, and we'll be all right.
Just leave her down there for the day, and then you get to Naples. Yeah.
Now she went to. You'll like to hear this actually. We went to Inter Lazio last season or the season before. It was a 3-1 win for Inter at the San Siro, and she came away, absolutely loved it, and said that her Italian team is Inter, much to my disgust.
Okay. All right. Well, that brings us nicely on to this year's title race, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Before the season started, everyone said it was going to be Inter and Napoli. For me, it looked like it was only going to be Napoli. Inter then had that great start against Torino and then followed it up with absolute trash against Udinese.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do you see the title race going on? Because Juve have won both. Milan have strengthened a lot, but they don't look great. I don't know. What do you think is going to happen?
If I was to say it without being shouted up at Neapolitans, then I'd say Napoli are favourite. Given how superstitious they are, they won't want anyone to be saying that. They'll not. So, but I do think Napoli are favourites. I think anyone who's got Antonio Conte as a manager is up there.
Yeah.
And I think given that Inter went for Christian Kiviu, I think that's where it lets them down. I don't think they've obviously got an amazing squad. I think I said that Inter had one of the worst transfer windows in the summer based on the fact that they've not addressed a couple of key issues, i.e. Mkhitaryan, Çalhanoğlu, Kirby. They brought in a Kanji, great signing, but then offloaded Pavard, and you're thinking you've not strengthened there. You've just like for like. You've not actually addressed the issue.
It's one step forward, one step back. There,
yeah, exactly. And then I think Piotr Sucic is great, good signing, but I just think there's not enough there to address. And then you look at they've went for Ademola Lookman on the basis that they're going to have a system that can adjust to wing play potentially, and then they've sold Zalewski to Atlanta and not got Lookman either. So you then go and what is actually the plan for Inter? Yeah. That's the worrying side. But I think they've got a good enough squad to be up there. You've got signed Boni, they've signed Sucic, they've got Lautaro, Thuram, Pio Esposito, I'm a massive fan.
As well from Marseille came in very early on.
Yeah, so you've obviously got a few signings there that can help, but I just think they've not addressed some key parts there. And I think given that the Champions League's there as well, it's a tough one. I just think Kiviu lets them down. Not that he's going to disrespect Kiviu and say that he's only played managed 15 games in the Serie A, so you can't judge it. But for a team that want to go for Scudetto and the Champions League, to hire a manager who's only had 15 Serie A games in a league that needs experience,
Yeah, we talked about experience. Yeah, it's Inter famously one of the most experienced teams in the league. They've got the oldest average age of the squad. To go for a manager that's untested, look, he might turn out to be Pep Guardiola. We don't know,
Yeah, you never
but
know.
I don't know. Early signs aren't great.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one. You've got to give him the time and the benefit of the doubt. He's been obviously thrown into that job without the experience, so you can't be too harsh. But I think the questions lie at the feet of the sort of the higher ups as to why they've went for. Why did they wait so long? They've clearly known Inzaghi was leaving for
Yeah,
a while.
and the sort of pursuit of Fabregas felt a bit of a shambles.
I felt that was just half-arsed. I think that was like a tick box that we'll go for Fabregas on the basis that we know that he's never going to leave Como until like Arsenal or Barcelona come for him. So I think that was a bit of a half-arsed attempt. But like they waited until every single other manager was boxed off to go, right, okay, who can we get now? Inzaghi's gone. Like they clearly knew Inzaghi was leaving before that. Just things come out that apparently he'd said he was leaving before the Champions League final, which is another conversation. I think that's a terrible way he's handled that.
Oh, yeah.
The proactiveness there to replace Inzaghi was terrible. I think Inter should have been quicker in that sense and got their replacement in right away, whoever it was, whether it was... I mean, at the time, Conte was leaving Napoli, like, he was ready to go. Yeah. Why wasn't that conversation had? I mean, I hate to say that, but...
But like, Allegri didn't have a job at the time either, you know?
Yeah. Inzaghi, like, Conte, Allegri, there was Gasperini was clearly wanting to sort of look elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure about him at Inter.
Yeah, no, but
his
like...
last time there.
Yeah, but there's like... He's obviously come a long way in his managerial career, and you think... If Milan can look at Allegri and go, yeah, we'll bring him back, then Inter can look at Gasperini.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, look, now we've got Mourinho scouting about looking for a job. It would. Oh
God, yeah, I don't think that second coming would. I
wouldn't put it past Marotta to pull this one out the bag.
I would love Mourinho back. I think Mourinho's box office, and I think he comes back to Inter in a league like Italy again. I think that's brilliant. But I don't think. I think that's me as it looking at it from the outside.
As an Inter fan, I'm not sure there'd be open arms
for
him the way he left the last time. But he left with a treble, so
you can't grumble then, really.
That's it. But football fans always will.
Yeah.
So talk to me then about Scott McTominay, because I always liked him at United. I thought he wasn't given a fair crack at the whip there. He seemed to do well every time he got his minutes, but I don't think anyone foresaw what's going on. Like, he's a Ballon d'Or nominee now. Like, what the hell happened to him?
I think, well, there's two things for me. I think, one, they probably weren't using him with his strengths in Manchester. I think at United, I think he was probably playing a bit too deep, maybe. Given Conte, where Conte's put him, he's put him as a bit of a sort of late arriver in the box. He's pushed him a bit higher up, given that more attacking freedom. Yeah. I also think Manchester United at the time, when McTominay was sort of coming into his prime years, it's just toxic. And you look at it now.
Wrong club, isn't it? Yeah.
It's an awful place to be. It seems like anyone who goes there is sort of, it's poisonous. It can't be, given how many players go there and how many managers have gone there and flopped, it can't be every single time the managers and the players' fault. It's got to be Man United's fault at some point. So I think there's something weird going on there. It's a bit of poison. You look at all the players that have gone there and failed and then went elsewhere and sort of are thriving. McTominay being one, Antony being another. Rashford went on loan and he sort of did all right. Yeah, so I think it was just a bit of a mixture of needing a change of environment, but also actually having a manager that knows what to do, pretty much. And Conte is one of them. And
he's a proven winner, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing about Conte is he has his system that he wants to play, and he finds players that perfect that system. And clearly McTominay is one of them. So I think it's a mixture of that environment at Manchester United and then Conte having a system that really complements his type of game, because it's clear that he's obviously a fantastic player, but I think Conte's bringing out the best of him. It'd be interesting to see if he moved on from Napoli or Conte moved on from Napoli, how McTominay adjusts to a different system. I obviously, he's having a great time at Napoli and he's a wonderful player. I just hope that it's not entirely because it just works in Conte's approach. If a new manager comes in or he goes elsewhere and plays a bit differently, how does McTominay adjust? How does that work? But for now, you can't take that credit away from him. He's been brilliant, and I think he deserves all the plaudits he's getting.
And I haven't really seen a full Napoli game this season. I've only seen the highlights of their matches. How's he dovetailing with Kevin De Bruyne?
So fine. So the first game he scored, and then scored the first goal, and De Bruyne scored the second against Sassuolo. Conte's sort of adjusted into playing 4 sort of central midfielders at one time, and then you've got McTominay and De Bruyne sort of interchanging. One will go out wide to the left while one's centre, and they'll sort of be a bit more fluid in the system. So I think that's how Conte's approaching it, and it's worked all right so far. Time will tell when they come up like against a real challenge. I think Fiorentina is a decent challenge this weekend, but I think when they come up, yeah, but I think they're still. I mean, compared to like Sassuolo, for example, I think it's a bigger challenge than that. But I think what we'll see is when they come up sort of against the likes of Inter, Juventus, Milan, Roma, is how that system works, because he's obviously changed slightly from last year when he was sort of relying on them wingers, and now he's sort of found a system where he has to play. You can't really look at him and go drop one of Lobotka, Anguissa and McTominay for De Bruyne just because it's De Bruyne. You can't really. That's not really how the system worked with them 3 in it. So it's like he's clearly adjusted in a way to find all 4, and time will tell whether or not it works. But if you base it on last,
we see the Champions League start as well. I think when you're playing 3 games in a week, I think you'll see a lot more rotation in there anyway in that middle, won't you?
Yeah, definitely. That's Conte's problem, is he always struggles to adjust to a European.
It was going to be my next question. Yeah, is how do you feel that's going to go? Now you've got this midfield. Are you more hopeful?
But the good thing about Napoli is they've got that midfield and that system with the 4 centre midfielders, but they can quickly change to a sort of wing play, given that they've got David Neres, Politano, Noah Lang. They can just kind of adjust systems back to sort of that more attacking wing play side of things. When you've got the likes of Lorenzo Luca and Lukaku in that centre when he's back, being able to adjust that wing play in terms of maybe you need a goal or you're chasing, I think that works nicely. But I think, he's sort of feeling out that 4 central midfielder sort of fluid sort of.
Right, start record. Right, so let's go. Right, so you just mentioned there, Luke, about Romelu Lukaku. He's out for I think 3 months now.
Yeah, so he's out for a while. It looks like after Christmas potentially. He's opted for not having surgery on his injury and going down the natural route, which I think the recovery time is the same.
It's his choice, isn't it? But
yeah,
because you mentioned earlier in the chat that Conte buys players that fit his system and that play the way that his system works. They've replaced him with Rasmus Højlund, it looks like, and I wouldn't say that he was an identical player to Romelu Lukaku.
No, so I think what you've got, obviously Conte loves Lukaku and what he offers to his system, which is why I think he's looked at Lorenzo Luca. There was a game last season when Conte praised Luca against Udinese and said it's very, very tough to press Udinese because they can ping it to Luca, who will hold it up.
Mm-hmm.
So Luca's come in as that sort of backup to Lukaku. He's had a bit of not a great start, to be honest, this season, but I think it'll come with time, given Conte is very new to sort of how Conte plays, and he's not, I think he's like 24, 25, so he's not exactly like a young player, but he's obviously gaining that experience still, and he's played at Udinese, so this is now a step up for him in level. The reason I think he's brought in Højlund is it gives him that alternative approach that he probably needs, given the Champions League's there, and I think he's probably learning lessons from last season on the fact that he can't always rely on Lukaku and sort of that approach to the game, which is why I think he's went for Rasmus Højlund. If you look at what they had last season, was the alternative was sort of bringing on that Raspadori style player as that sort of backup, and I think that sort of seems to be it just gives Conte options in a season where they're probably looking to go for multiple. I think that's probably why he's brought in Højlund, to give him that alternative, but also I just think Højlund is probably an all right striker. It goes back to that Manchester United point from last time. It's like, it does make sense. I think I am dubious based on the price tag and whatever, based on the loan and obligation. But again, I just think it is that alternative approach and that Raspadori sort of option, I guess. I think Højlund's better than Raspadori, but that's what Conte used Raspadori in that sense last season, so I think he'll use Højlund in that similar approach. I think on the basis of the start of the season, I think Højlund will become starter while Lukaku's out, to be quite honest with you, given Lorenzo Luca's not impressed, but it all depends on who they're playing, clearly. I think he'll adjust based on game-by-game basis, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, you and I keep mentioning about Conte and his European record, and it might seem strange sort of to casual observers that saw him sort of walk the league at Chelsea, but he's got a horrible record in Europe, Antonio Conte.
Yeah, it's not great. I think that's his weakness is having to focus on.
There's a Europa League final with Inter that they lost, and that's it really for him, isn't it?
Yeah, That's the worry, I think. I think is Napoli now. You probably 2 Scudettos in 3 years. You probably want to see what you can do in Europe. I think they've got the talent to do it. They've got, if Conte can figure out how to play in Europe, I think they've got the manager to do it, because if he figures something out, then it's going to be very good. It's just he has to figure that European side out and manage them games, I guess. And I guess that's why we've seen them have such a big window, is because he's probably learning, okay, right, my record in Europe's terrible, and Napoli didn't have a squad to even win a Scudetto last season, and I managed it. So let's buy in how many players they've bought in, on the basis that then they now have the squad to go up both, I guess. So I think there is signs there that he is adjusting his approach, he is learning, I guess. But I think,
given that you don't drop into the Europa League anymore from the Champions League, what do you think is a good European campaign for Napoli? Are you expecting to see the trophy come back to Naples?
I don't think the trophy, no. I think it's hard, given the sheer quality in that tournament. It's at Liverpool, Barcelona, PSG, even City, albeit they've had a bit of a dubious result. Chelsea are a bit of a dark horse. Obviously, you've got then like Real Madrid and stuff like that. So I don't expect them to go for the trophy. I think I've seen people say semi-final is potentially a good one, but I think that's a bit ambitious. I think quarterfinals I'd be sort of content with.
I don't like to talk about last season's Champions League very often, but Inter did get to the final with a very aging, very limited squad, albeit they were then torn to pieces by PSG. But it's not beyond the realms of possibility if you get a nice run.
No, I don't think so either.
Position,
I think it goes back to that key views experience for Inter, which is where that's going to let them down in Champions League.
Sorry, I was talking about Napoli.
Sorry, yeah.
Not beyond the realms of possibility that you get a nice run, you can end up there.
No, definitely not. But I just think it's a hard one. Maybe Inter. Well, I think Inter had the stronger squad in terms of last season and the finals that they've reached. I don't know. It's a tough one to call. I think, anything can happen in the Champions League. I think it's that type of tournament. Knockout football is knockout football at the end of the day, and you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, they've made it a bit easier to get to the knockout stages, haven't they, now?
So I definitely think it's a massive, massive failure if they don't get to the knockout stages. I think it's a massive failure if I think quarterfinal it has to be for me, and anything over that is a bonus personally. But I don't know how many Napoli fans will agree with me, whether they're expecting more or they're expecting less. I don't know, but given the signings, I think it makes sense.
You're telling me not to back Napoli for the Champions League, though?
Well, it's one of them ones. I probably wouldn't waste your money, but it's one of them ones. If it comes off and you've missed out on X amount of £100, then don't come shouting at me if you've not done it.
No worries. Look, thanks for your time this morning, Luke. I know we've had a bit of technical issues that hopefully you won't realise if you're listening, because we'll just stitch it all together. But we had a bit of a disaster halfway through this.
Yes, the magic of editing.
So
will save us. Don't worry.
Before we're finished, where can everyone find you, and how can everyone keep following you?
Yeah, so first off, thanks for having me on. Been a pleasure. I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Forza Calcio World. The newsletter is linked on there, so subscribe to that. And then on Twitter, I'm just at Luke Taylor TCD. I've not set up a separate Twitter account for the newsletter yet. I'm probably never going to, but there, either of them. I'm Italian football, all of them.
Twitter accounts, can't you?
Yeah, it just gets a bit messy. So any of them places,
no worries.
Bit of regular content.
We'll link it all as well on all of the bottom of everything we put out on this. So no worries. Look, thanks for coming on, and enjoy your weekend, mate.
No, nice one. Thank you very much.
Not too much though.
Try not to.
Cheers. Stop.